There must be some kind of way out of here, said the Joker to the thief. There is too much confusion. I can't get no relief. Businessmen, they drink my wine. Plowmen dig my earth. None will level on the line. Nobody offers their word.
Hey.
I think that's the first time I've heard Jimmy on this show.
Oh.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Well, I think you got to be at a certain age, no?
Oh.
I don't think any modern day music is sampling Jimmy, or maybe there's.
Oh, maybe not.
There's got to be a reason why nobody's sampling Jimmy.
Yeah, no. Well, this is a keeper then.
Yes, it is.
It's true. It was his idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea. It's a great track, first of all. It's a great idea.
Yeah. Well, it just came to me because the first line is almost like more like talking. Let's sing.
Oh, so you chose an easy song to sing. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the Construction Life. It's good to see you guys again. I'm excited about today's show. We're going to talk about something very interesting and something that's basically going to hopefully change our industry for the better. Huge amount.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, right?
Yeah,
So we're gonna sit back. Everyone's gonna listen, and we're gonna pay attention. We got some interactive stuff going on with the monitor because we are gonna talk about your app. And so anybody who's listening right now, you kind of do yourself a favor and get on YouTube or Rumble and check it out there because you might want to see a lot of this stuff here. I want to quickly do a shout out to the boys at Mepay for their lovely blue T-shirt that I'm wearing today, and everybody here at Venture X office is always seeing me change my shirt top every time I'm going 2 or 3 shows per day. But here we go, we've got it, and then I've got Simon to the left of me, and I've got Azam to the right of me, and you guys are CTO and CEO. Who's who?
I'm CTO.
CEO.
Okay. And there's more other C's out there, no? Or is that the only ones?
No, that's
COO, no, see, all kinds of C's.
I mean, at Trax.
At
Trax. All we have, in terms of C's.
So it's Trax with an X, right?
Yes.
So, all right. And then the website is trax.com or .co.
Oh, yeah.
.co, I know. And then it's Simon at trax.co, and then it's azam.con at trax.co.
Yeah.
And you guys are on LinkedIn. So you can see a bunch of stuff there, right?
Exactly, yeah.
All right. So, gentlemen, how do we begin this show? This is about you guys educating the industry about building codes. Because I've got the 2 books underneath this table, and I joke how it's the 4th leg in the table because we know how big those books are. And then the changes that go on the, I don't know, monthly, daily? I don't know how often they do their changes. Quarterly, okay. All right. And I'll just admit, I don't keep up with the changes, but I do, and that's the reason why you gentlemen are here. Make my life easier, please.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's seems to be that one of the key values is really updates, because everything is kind of a moving target. So there's the Ontario building codes that are updated quarterly. There's both amendments, but then there's changes that they don't really mention what the changes are, and then there's major changes and minor changes, things added, things removed. In addition to that, the OBC, of course, references a bunch of other standards, which are also changing at their own rate. And so the whole thing is a big moving target. Unfortunately, people don't have free access to the standards. You have to pay for those separately. But luckily, we were able to license the Ontario Building Codes from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing and Publications Ontario. And
that's a mouthful, huh?
So part of that agreement is that they have to send us the updates, and we update it for people. So in the physical book, there's a lot of pages to change out and this and that, and apparently that's become a bigger and bigger job. And then also migrating all your tabs and notes and comments and things from one physical book to the next, we've been told that people have to actually now schedule time, like take a day to do that.
To do all this.
To do these updates. So, we'd like to automate that for people so that in Trax Codes, when you open your Ontario Building Code, we have Volume 1 and Volume 2. So that's another complication, is that it's not all together, because the PDFs are like Lord of the Rings, right? Like, and not just one of the books, like all the books together.
Everything, yeah.
So, so there's 2 volumes, and then we make all of that accessible as a database. So it's more like a website experience instead of like a super long PDF. And so that makes it easier for people to bookmark each section or make a comment, and then migrate those. We're just working on that. We'll hope to release that soon, migrating your comments to the next version. So that you really will be up to date all the time.
So I guess my first question is really towards the end of this whole process, which is how quickly does all this new information get to the inspector that shows up on the job site? So there's a lot of all what you just explained that happens way before that moment when something new is on the site that we have to comply with now, and tradespeople are always trying to stay as updated as possible. But you guys would know better. A lot of changes going on in the Ontario Building Code, any building code, I guess, for any city, constantly, right?
Yeah. I mean, Vancouver has their own building code, apparently. So that's the only city-level building code I know of. But yeah.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, is it that different in the city than the rest of British Columbia? I don't know.
Do you know offhand what kind of interesting things are slightly different for Vancouver, the city, versus the rest of the province?
I haven't looked into that yet, but yeah, that's a little odd. But I mean, in Ontario, we don't have a separate Toronto building code, luckily. But the Ontario building code is different enough from the national building codes that is quite a difference. But we've had from the people that have been using Trax Codes so far, we've heard that it is helpful for them to have the national codes as well. I think there's also maybe some more diagrams and figures in the national codes for the same kind of thing. And things like that. But in terms of when the inspector shows up, we hope to help them as well. So we recently were at the Ontario Building Officials Association conference, where all these building officials, both the plans examiners who give you the building permit in the first place, and then the other group, the inspectors that come and check on site, those two groups of people have their conference there, and we were showing it there as well. And we at that time we also published one of their standards. So in addition to the building codes, both Ontario and national, we can also do custom kind of things. So one of them was the OBOA Quick Start Inspector Guide, and so they have their own guide, which is publicly available now in Trax.
Okay.
And so you can see what key things they're looking for when they do an inspection. It's just for residential. It's not everything, but we hope to help make that into a checklist that you could check yourself before an inspection, for example, and then you might be on the same page with them.
Oh, I like that. Like that's clever. I mean, not saying that you guys are not clever. I'm just saying that, did you guys realize the daunting task that you guys were diving in when you started this?
No.
I mean, like it's like the OBC. Just I guess any city's building code itself it's a whole other language, and the way it's all been organized, I guess, to today. And now you guys are here to make it easier for us. Like that's a huge undertaking.
Yeah, we.
Simon wants to speak. I know he wants to speak.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, if we knew, we probably maybe would have done something different. But that's the thing. Once you realize that there is a problem, then that's an opportunity to fix and improve things.
Yeah, just stay closer to the mic there. That's
yeah.
No, it's fine. Or bring the mic closer to you. So I mean, I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so how old is it now? When was that first start date that you guys were thinking this is what we want to pull off? This is what we see the problems here in the industry.
Really, January 1st. At the beginning of the year, we spent the previous 2 years basically over the pandemic building up our platform. So all of the things that you need in any kind of app, you need the login system, the help system, the communications, and everything like that. So and our goal was originally to encode sustainability standards. That's what both Simon and I really both care about, sustainability and things like LEED and also for the human wellness in buildings, the WELL standard. But then when we were ready to start doing that, we thought we should really start with the mandatory standards that everybody has to do, just as a business thing. Instead of voluntary ones, it'll be a much smaller market. And so we started thinking about doing the building codes then. And really, January 1st, I would say we started actually working on integrating the building codes.
So if you guys have seen the whole code, like you guys are familiar with, you're aware of the whole thing?
Well, Simon looks at it a lot more than I do.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read the whole thing in detail, that's for sure.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out what other, because I know that we recently had a building passive person, and also recently with the new bill that was just passed and how the green incentives were coming out. And he was just saying that it'd be nice if we could actually just have details in the code. So then it could help builders to learn those details and apply those details. So, I mean, from looking at the code itself, because you've seen it more than probably anybody that's listening to this show and anybody here, is there that information? Is some of that information in there?
A lot of it is not. A lot of it is in other sources.
Okay.
And that's the problem. You have the standard maybe referenced somewhere, but it's not all of it is there. So especially how to do things. So it's not necessarily, the how to do something is usually in the standard rather than the code. So there's quite a bit of missing things. So it's not enough, unfortunately.
Do you guys think you'll be tasked? I mean, because your objective here is you're going to tackle every province here in Canada regarding the codes, right? And I joke that it's going to be Quebec's going to be last, just for the way Quebec is. Thank you, everybody in Quebec that's listening right now. Okay,
it looks that way, yeah.
But I mean, eventually you'll get to every province, which will be great, and territories as well, which will be great, and then we'll get a better idea of how to get this information to us on the job site, so then we can, like you said, ask these right questions, right?
Yeah, I mean, do a little shout out to Nunavut. They're already using Trax Codes.
Are they really?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, one of the guys came by our booth at the Ontario Building Officials Association conference.
Yeah.
And I think there's 3 people using it there now, which is not.
No, but it's great that they're using it, and they're using it for the purpose of building correctly up there.
Yeah, I mean, they're looking at the National Building Codes of Canada, so they're not using OBC. But hopefully we'll be able to help, and we'll add all of the regions.
Okay, so
I think you asked a specific question, though.
I asked a lot of questions. I'm just trying to remember specifically, but no, the actual information in the code. Because I trust me, I am never going to admit, or will I ever read that entire 2-volume, 3-volume, 15-volume. I'm not gonna do it. I refuse to.
Well, I think that's the whole point. I mean, and even knowing where something is right now, when you take a test on proficiency in building codes, you have to be able to find the right thing, know where it is in the physical book. You have the physical book, but is that really necessary? Going forward. If you can just search for the thing you're looking for and actually find it, maybe it's not always necessary to know what's there.
What's the relationship here? How did you guys come up with, who came up with the idea first, and we need to figure this out? We need to come up with this. We have to help the construction industry. How did that all start?
I guess that was me, because I remember Simon asking me at some point, why are we doing building codes again?
Okay.
So, I mean, that was a part of a longer evolution of thinking about sustainability. So basically, we worked together for a long time at Autodesk Research. And during that time, we were also, developing new types of simulation and this and that to help simulate buildings and energy efficiency and things like that, and occupancy, of how people move around and use a building. And we got into what we call generative design, where we have some goals, some high-level goals, like how much daylight should come in, or how people should, where people should be able to access and things like that. And then at that time, I thought, each one of these projects that we do, we make up the goals. And I thought there's already standards with hundreds of goals. And so we should really stop making our own goals and start using goals that are already there, best practices from standards. And then eventually that led to, our thinking about how to encode LEED and WELL. We did some research projects on that just 2 years ago at Trax, and then finally to the mandatory codes, the mandatory standards, the codes.
So can you give us an idea of how many pages are in the actual OBC? How many pages are in the standards? How many pages wellness, LEED, everything like that? Like, do you guys have those ideas or those numbers?
One number comes to mind is the national building code. So that doesn't have plumbing or energy.
Right, they're all separated.
Yeah,
so
they're
energy,
all separated.
plumbing.
The national one is 1,600 pages, or something like that. So it's fairly large.
Yes.
The OBC, the Ontario Building Code, is probably similar size, but maybe a little bit smaller. Maybe I don't know.
I did do a stat for one of our slides where if we added up all the version or all the different codes that we have in Trax right now, it came up to 7,000 pages. So yeah, it's really not helpful to think of it as pages.
No, that hurts.
Yeah, and also like you said, it's heavily encoded in legalese.
Yeah.
And so the logic of figuring out like this applies except for this and that on Thursdays, you know, if the sun's shining on this side or whatever, like it's a very encoded in a way that you have to unravel it to just understand even if this applies to your situation.
Yeah.
And so I think that, you know, what we would work towards for Trax Codes is the holy grail here would be to automate applicability. Like if you say I'm doing, you know, a reno on this basement, what codes apply to that? Or I'm doing a commercial kitchen, you know, just show me those things. I don't care about, you know, all these other things.
Yeah,
So,
with us, I guess mostly it'd be part 9 would be the majority that we would be looking at. Right. So that's residential construction, and then you can get into other parts based on whatever you guys are, or whoever's building, where's building.
Yeah. I mean, so the first step of that we have planned, we haven't done it yet, but is, and we got a request from our very first customer, who's a contractor as well.
Yeah.
I should shout out to Norm.
Sure.
Norm Schilder at Copperstone Kitchens, who asked for, you know, can you just filter the updates? So when we send the list of like what changed, well, we don't send it. It's a feature that you can see what changed in the codes. Can you just filter that for part 9, for example?
What is the process? Because you guys might know this, I'm not exactly sure, but when you want to make a change to the code, is it a lengthy process, or what exactly happens? And like it's all government, right?
Yeah, it's all government. I think there's 3 levels of how to participate in updating the codes, although I really haven't gone into it deeply. But one is just feedback, like they have open calls for feedback on changes. There's another one where even if nothing changed, you can propose a change. And then the third one, I think, is committee level, maybe where you volunteer to be on a committee.
Okay. All right. So just a regular citizen of Canada can look at this and go, here's a suggestion, but then it'll go through a whole committee to review it.
So theoretically, that's open to anybody.
Wow, I kind of like that.
Yeah. I mean, it takes time and energy, and so you know, I think they're always looking for more feedback. They'd like to have more feedback each time.
Yeah, it's the green building passive better. Building wellness is definitely I'm glad that that's growing, and that's a segment and that we can start paying attention to. LEED is also good too as well. That is kind of growing. Did that all come from the national, starting at the national level and then made it to the OBC provincially?
In terms of sustainability,
yeah,
I think it really started in BC. I think they introduced the step codes of these 5 levels of energy efficiency up to net zero, and then the National Building Code maybe adopted that, but I'm not totally sure.
Okay, no, that kind of makes sense.
And so I think in Ontario, there's a group at Carleton University called Efficiency Canada, and they have codes for climate program where they're trying to focus on building codes that relate to climate change and sustainability.
Oh, that's
There's a few things going on.
There's a lot going on. And then that's all tied. So that would be all part of Trax Codes.
We would like to make that available through Trax Codes.
Okay.
You know, we're hoping to have at some point a filtering of just the sustainability related codes to help promote that, basically. Yeah.
So I know that we're going to dive into, and I'll tell the listeners again, you're going to be better off to watch this than to listen to it. Just listen to it. We're going to dive into it. But I guess, how easy is it to just find something? If I wanted to, if I'm on the job site, something comes up, or I just want to pick a fight with an inspector, you know what I mean? And then something comes up and I want to challenge them. Which I could probably bring up right now is regarding insulation levels at the bottom of a window well, close to foundation footing, right? Which is a situation that I came across recently on a job site, and I had to challenge the inspector, and then I had to go through a code consultant to find this information to eventually get back to him. But I'm sure that I could have found the information with you guys.
Could be. I mean, our goal is also, like I said, to take these thousands of pages and make it more like a website. And
Yeah.
so right at the top of Trax, you'll see the big search bar, just like Google kind of thing. Like we want to be the Google for the building codes
love
too.
it. I love it.
So, if you could express that in a search like insulation, window well, foundation, something like that, hopefully you would find it. It's a instant search, so you can see the results, you can see where they're coming from, the sources, you can filter the results and all of that kind of stuff. But definitely search is when you don't have the physical book and you don't want to spend your whole life flipping pages, the search is a critical part of the whole thing, and making sure the search is good and helps you find things for sure.
So let me ask you a really dumb question. Why didn't the government just do this?
That's a good question.
It's a dumb question, really.
Well, why didn't the government just do this? I guess.
Well, maybe I have. They could, but the problem is that it's not just one, jurisdiction, not one area. We want to do more than just Ontario. We want to do more than just maybe eventually Canada. So in that sense, no government is gonna, it's gonna be local to their jurisdiction. So whether it is Ontario or a city, so. Because let's say architects, they may work on projects in multiple places and so on. So having a place that's kind of centralizes, plus having all these other bodies that maybe come up with standards and so on, having a place where it brings it all together.
Yeah, we also added the Fire Code and the Fire Protection and Prevention Act.
Yeah.
And some of the other acts. So that's the one reason is there's not just one group, so you'd end up with like a bunch of different apps. So somebody to pull it all together is one aspect. The other aspect is more just historic, I guess, because the history of all this is like it's on paper, and so they would print the physical book and like sell the book, and they couldn't give it away for free because it was such a massive book.
Yeah.
That so there's the cost aspect of making these things, and in transitioning to digital, that was somehow a broken process, and basically British Columbia again led the way here, open sourcing their building codes. So you didn't have to buy the book; you could download a PDF.
Oh, smart!
And it was free. So that was
even smarter.
So that's, I think, the thing that started the movement towards people realizing that, hey, if it's digital, we don't need to charge for it because we're not cutting down a bunch of trees and printing this thing on paper. So it took a few years and coercing, I'm sure, from different people inside the government too. So there were proponents inside the government who said we should also make this freely available. And I think that has now spread across the country, and now Ontario is also free in terms of the digital download.
Wow. Has it been easy to deal with the government?
We benefited from, we started, like I said, at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
But we benefited from another group that we work with, a partner called Eco Innovation Lab, and they spent the year before that trying to convince the government to license the building codes to them. And so by partnering with them, we pretty early when we started, I think maybe we signed in March or so, the license agreement with the ministry, and at the same time the NRC, the National Research Council of Canada, for the national codes. And so we benefited from their lobbying effort to convince them to license the codes to companies.
Okay, so I'm liking this. I'm liking a lot of this, right? How do you guys want to dive into trying to figure out working it? I actually want you guys to work it. So I know that the laptop's patched to the screen, and so I want you guys to walk us through and then talk us through and how it all would work. So then everybody that's listening could actually reach out to you guys and start using it, right? So
Right.
And then we could talk about cost later on. But I know you guys have told me the cost, and it's not crazy.
Yeah, it's like 2 lattes a month.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So,
Yeah. So what's that in Tim Hortons talk?
3 lattes and 10 more.
Okay, there we go.
But yeah, the system, like I said, you just register with an email, and you can use it on as many devices as you want, and this and that. We do have apps as well for iOS devices, iPhone, iPad, and so on. and Android as well. But it's 1,600 pages or whatever. So if you have a bigger screen, that's always better.
Yeah,
of course.
tablet at least would be nice.
Yeah, but if you're on the job site, like you said, and you want to just search for something, Norm again, who I mentioned, that was also his use case. Like if when he's on a site, he wants to check something like the corner of this, the distance from the stairwell to the kitchen or something. He could just do that right on site. He doesn't have to carry around the books.
You know what? Before we get started on this, something came up. Carlito actually came by my place, and then he brought up something. He said something about hangers for a joist after above 2x4s are not allowed to use screws. You have to use nails. I disputed it with him because the screws were engineered screws from Simpson Strong Tie, so they're recognized as SDS screws designed specifically for hangers. How do we find out that answer? If that, because he smelled like fish to me when he told me that any hanger above 2x4 requires nails. Anything below a 2x4 hanger, you can get away with screws. And I'm thinking that he's thinking regular construction screws for a 2x4 hanger, and then you'd have to get engineer screws and or nails. How do I find that answer? If we can find that answer, or we'll find it out later on. I'm not sure.
We will search.
Okay. I'm just curious about that. At some point, we'll try to figure that out. So then I could just give it to Carlito is what I'm trying to do it, right? Because I want to make sure that he's wrong and I'm right. That's all it is. Because I thought it was confusing. I just said, listen, this ain't TV. This is real construction. Okay?
Going beyond regular sustainability, there was a project in Europe where they built an office building for a reasonable size, 50,000 square feet or something. And they built it with like 238,000 screws. The whole thing was screwed so that it could be unscrewed. So you could actually design for
smart
deconstruction and, not make the whole thing just a big pile of garbage. So.
I take my direction, like Simpson Strong Tie is a good company and they engineer everything and they get the certification for it. So if they're giving me a screw and they're recommending that it could be used for a hanger, then that trumps some guy who's been on TV before with a show, right? That's how I look at it. So. Well, we'll find out later on. We'll dive into it. We'll find out and see if I can tell him so, right?
Yeah.
All right, so let's dive into I want to get into this, how this all works.
Okay, great.
We did have, when we were at OBOA conference, we did have two officials come up to us and we just have a disagreement. Can we just look something up really quick? And so we're like, yeah, sure. So we pulled it up.
That's what I could see happening. I can see different tradespeople on different sites challenging each other and educating each other. And I think that's really cool, using your tool.
And it worked. In that case, it did work.
Yeah. In that case, it worked. And it was interesting, too, because their dispute between these two building officials was, for a water tower, when it's to be demolished, is it treated like a building? And then the answer, I
would say yes.
I think the answer was yes.
Okay.
But, it was something we had to search for, and then they found the answer.
It's still a structure to be built. I look at it like the reverse. When you're building it, you're treating it like a structure. So it still would have a foundation and piers and whatever, and then you have a structure. So if you have to dismantle it, you'd have to treat it the same way.
Right. And then the funny add-on was, well, what if it's a heritage water tower?
That's a different can of worms. Do you guys have a can of worms section on the site?
Well, I don't. That's a good idea.
All right. So how do we begin, gentlemen? How does it all start?
Well, once you start Trax Codes here, you get the big search bar at the top, and there's two main things: the library, which shows all of the codes and other things, including this, as I mentioned, the Ontario Inspector's Quick Start Guide.
Yep.
And Volume 1 and Volume 2,
Fire Code,
Fire Protection Act, Building Code Act, and then there's the National Building Codes in English and in French.
Oh, you guys really were not aware of what you guys were getting into.
And we have like 3 versions of the National Building Code. Most of them, some have 2, but there's plumbing, fire, energy, and buildings. So you can search the library here as well. So what was the case you had?
It's, I guess, hangers. It would be structural hangers, and can they be used with screws, or it has to be nails? So I guess it would give you a variety of different sizes.
You just want the Ontario one, right?
Yeah, it'd be Ontario.
And different sizes.
I would, you know what? If you would, I guess you go 2x8 hanger screws, and would that work? Would that come up?
Let's try it. Oh, but it's in metric. It's not too bad.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. So what would that be? I don't know. You know what? You know what you do? Do 39 by 80 hanger screw, because that's a 2x4. 80, is it 88 or 80? I'm trying to remember. Metric.
Maybe structural design down there. Yeah,
This one?
maybe.
Is that because it's a structural thing that it should be nails, or
I think there's more structural strength. I mean, the one big thing is that you always teach any kid, you never use construction screws on any hanger because of the shear force. So they're tapered. So they, technically speaking, can break off. So that's why Simpson designed their SDS screws, which are a hex, and it's got a flange on it, and it's flat, so it's actually stronger. But his argument was that you can't use a screw into a large enough lumber piece like that, but in a smaller one you can. So at that point you have to use nails. Support.
No, but that's plumbing.
oh,
So I mean, basically, you've typed in, your keywords, and then you're getting certain sections, and then you'd have to go into each section to find that out.
yeah, like a Google search. So there's a variety of results.
Oh, there's support of
Framing
tail and
supported on a
header.
flat insulated concrete surface. Support tail and header joist. You know what? Support on tail and header joists.
Yeah, try that.
What would that? The one right above it, 9.23. Yeah, that one. This is scary. This actually means I might have to do this now.
Supported by floor shall be supported by suitable joist hangers or nailing.
Yeah. So which is that suitable to the table? Is that it, with table?
So let's go to the table.
And here's the table. So column. Okay.
Now this says nails.
Interesting.
Um,
2 at each seat, so 3. So.
sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm just seeing it. So it does say nails at the top, but there's no tablet on the top where it says screws at all.
No. I mean, it doesn't say nails are required, but
It's just referring to nails.
Like it just, if you're using nails, this is the number of nails you need.
Yeah, there's a pattern and everything.
I mean, the whole section is called nailing of framing. So
Well, you'd have to find the screwing of framing then.
yeah.
No, I guess that would be it.
The toenail.
3. Double header trimmer joist. So ledgers. Dun, dun.
At each end, cross bridging, end nail, stud to wall plate, each end
Toenail. Everything's.
So, I mean, this is where you get into maybe a soft area where there is an interpretation. So it doesn't say nails are required, but it does say, it's assumed that this is, for nailing.
It brings up a good point because there's going to be a lot of stuff that's in the OBC or any code that gets trumped, I guess, by engineers coming in and making their own suggestion on what they want to do. So, I mean, we've done that so many times where I don't think it's in the code, where I've actually had to do a 28-foot long LVL 4-ply beam, 16-inch, and then the engineer signed off on that beam and signed off on half-inch through bolts nutted on both sides, every 24-inch staggered, right? That's not in the code. That would be an engineer at a specific detail in a house, right?
Right.
Got it. But at least, like, I would never have found that going through the binders. That table would have been challenging for me to find it.
Yeah. And also, we first found the result of the text, and then the table was somewhere else.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So yeah, having that link. So if you use the OBC on the web server PDF, those are not links. So we actually went through, and when it says C section this or C table this, we identify it as a link so that you can just click on it and go there.
Oh man.
Yeah, so here, for example, it says conforming staples conforming to Article 92335. This would not be a link in the PDF. So we added these kind of things, links to the tables and so on, so that it, again, behaves more like a website. Also in the contents here, like we could go back to this or even open it in a new tab, just like a web browser.
Oh, you know what? Go to maximum spans.
Yeah.
What would that be for? Is that for joist? That's tail and header joist. Maximum spans.
What if you search for just screws and see where they talk about screws?
Spans for joists and rafters. But I love this. Like, look at this. This is, oh, man. Steel beams. And then there's a table for every single one. So your maximum steel beam, that table there will tell you what you can, what size W, and then it tells you, look at that. Look at that. Holy cow.
Yeah, one of the things that we want to do is some of these tables are really huge. So this is not so bad, but some of the tables are really huge. So sometimes you can just have a little widget where you would put in, your size and how many columns, and it would just give you the numbers. So when you're looking at it on a large screen like this is great. But if you're on your phone, you can't really use these tables. So we will really want to put work to change them to be more
some
like
of these
widgets.
Some of these tables are like 60 pages long. Oh, God. But
the information's there. So, I mean, and it's all, like, look at us. Right now, you're looking at something. You put a keyword. It got you a bunch. And then you chose one, and it got you other ones. You broke it down, and here I am at a table right now. And this took seconds to do that.
Yeah.
Right? So that's dramatically. So once you start figuring out exactly what you're looking for, you can find the information you need.
Yeah, and by avoiding the limitations of the book, hopefully that'll encourage people to explore a little more, click on links and see what's there and so on. And once you found something, if you thought this was relevant and you need it again, you could just go and bookmark this thing. So it'll be saved. Like, this is a good one. I'm going to use this again.
And then you can go back to is there a bookmark section or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you just click on the little bookmark there at the top.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Wow.
Then you can see, here's the steel beams one we just did.
Oh, look at that. Hearth extension, man. Or hearth, whatever you want to say. I don't know what parts of the country you're at.
Extension, yeah.
Bookmark. You already bookmarked it? You building a fireplace?
I don't know why I bookmarked that.
Support, yeah. So the
I should have
support
made a comment,
extension. So I just I gotta put my glasses on and off. Okay, so what am I reading? Except for fireplace shall have non-combustible hearth extended 400 mil. Yeah. Okay.
Another, just while we're on this one, another thing that has been suggested to us is if we could convert the units, like in real life. We're not using millimeters, right? So
that's
if we could,
brilliant.
We want to just add in brackets maybe next to each one. What are the imperial dimensions? And so you'll still see what the millimeters like, what the official number is.
The metrics for the engineers and architects, and the imperials for the tradespeople building everything.
Right.
That's the unfortunate thing.
But everybody, the building officials also want to do it because when they're reviewing the design, it's not going to be in metric. It's going to be in imperial as well.
That's a very good point.
And also, we're told by one of the building officials, she said that most of her annotations in the book, the physical book, was also these conversions to imperial. So if we just automated that, then that would save you from a bunch of, handwritten notes as well.
So, I mean, you guys are the code people. So is that an easy thing to do, or is that a difficult thing? You're talking about 1,600 pages plus all these other books. And
good question. Yeah, no, it's easier to do in the national building codes because they've labeled all of the numbers with units and things like that. It's more difficult, I think.
Yeah, it's similar. It's similar to the way we're doing links, where you have to do kind of regular expressions and see, okay, if it's this kind of a number plus millimeter and every kind of unit, you basically would have to handle to figure out and identify, look at the text and match. We could use some machine learning or do some pattern matching.
It'd be cool. I mean, I'm not trying to do a job or anything like that. Yeah. If the mouse just goes over the metric number and it becomes imperial next to it or something like that. So it's not always up there, right?
Yeah.
or vice versa or something. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just thinking about it because then that's going to be the first thought of every tradesperson I know. I don't know, unless you're a European, you came here, then you're very well aware of the metric.
Right.
And then you have to always convert it back to the imperial, right? Because on site, though, in Canada, in Ontario, it's an imperial world.
Yeah.
Even in America, all over America.
Yeah, we were thinking there's a few ways to do it. Like you could just set in your settings, always show me this or that. Or we could have a tooltip like you suggested, like you roll over it and then, but there's no hover on the phone.
That's true.
So you'd have to click on them all. So that's why we were thinking, let's just put it in brackets next to them. And
That
then you can
makes
see
sense.
both kind of
That
thing.
makes sense.
Unless as a setting, filter it out, for example.
I want to just share a little bit of history of the LBC here. You guys probably know this information because I don't. How do you pronounce this? Carruthers report? Carruthers report? I have no idea. 1969, talking about the history of the OBC. The Committee of Uniform Building Standards for Ontario by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs at the time created a report commonly called the Carruthers report after the chairman of the committee at the time, and it laid the foundation for the regulatory building framework. That's where the building code started. Uniform Building Standards branch, 1970 to 75. It was established in 1970 in the Ontario Department of Labor. In 1972, it formed the Technical Standards Division. Building Code branch came about in 1976 to 1984. It replaced the Uniform Building Standards within Ontario, went through the Consumer and Commercial Relations, and then in December 31st, 1975 is the Ontario Building Code, the very first one. December 30, on New Year's Eve, the Ontario Building Code came to be on 1970. Like the government was working at that time?
Sounds like somebody had a deadline.
No, it's most likely happened way before or
And then
way after.
They just
or
submitted
they
it.
They just made the date.
The first Ontario Building Code ever. So before this, each municipality had the authority to enforce its own rules. But the first OBC superseded all municipal laws regarding design and construction of buildings. The OBC has had 6 revisions between 75 to 2012. The current version and each revision has its own numbers of amendments. So that's where the numbers. So the numbers mean something. There's a definition between each number and then the point and all. And you guys are going to talk about that. And so there's had 18 amendments in the second most of all the revisions behind the 1997 building code. So there's been 18 big ones since the 97 one. Wow. So all those numbers now. Let's discuss in the definition and why all those numbers there.
Well, the numbers. Each amendment has a number. And they just collection of changes, and some of although the new version comes out quarterly, there may not be necessarily an amendment associated with it. But in the amendment, it may say like on November 1st, this takes effect.
Yes.
And so it may be in an older version actually will say like in the future in November this will happen, and so. On November 1st, there's a new version technically where this took effect, but the amendment happened a while ago.
Yes.
So they give a bit of room for people to be aware and starting to get to know what's coming in the future. So anyway, I don't know if that sort of answers that.
Is it faster to remove certain things? Because if you're amending certain things, then certain things are being modified, but there's also stuff that's been removed, right? Like the heat recovery stack for plumbing, that's been removed. That was implemented and then it was removed. So is it as quickly to remove as it is to input?
In terms of publishing the changes, it's as quickly. But in terms of how the process, I couldn't comment on when it was proposed, how many committees it had to go through, how many special interest groups, companies, and things that would complain. So the building officials say that a lot of companies complain about changes to the codes, and that it will be too expensive, and this and that. And so sometimes it's just not true. Also, so it's hard to convey what the implications of one of these changes are.
So does the city? How do I find out the information of what's being changed, or can I find out that information, or you guys have that information?
Yeah, we have that information. can show dynamically what's the changes, or we link to the official, Ontario website that has a list of changes as well.
Their website's very difficult to navigate.
We do have direct links, but also the tool itself, you can just show the diffs. So if you want,
Are you talking about upcoming changes that have not been made
Oh.
official?
Yeah, those, but
no,
because
we don't
I mean,
have those. No.
okay, so and I'm not saying that you guys would know that information. You have to wait for it to go through the process,
Yeah.
and then once it goes through the process, and then when they publish it,
Yeah.
that's when you guys get involved. And now you guys are getting this as an automatic update on your system.
Right.
So you don't even have to call them up and go, by the way, any changes this week? Like,
Yeah,
no,
no.
it's like it's already happening automatically, right?
Right. Like you can see, we have some versions here, July, April, March, and so on. And then we can do the little compare document thing, turn it on, and then choose which version we're comparing it to. So if we go back,
Oh, wow, eh?
version here, for example.
And maybe just select only show the changes
Yeah, okay.
so that we can see.
So then theoretically somewhere in this section there's a change. Here it is. So this was added. So for
So there's a highlight. So it's highlighted as well.
Yeah. So combustible construction means a type of construction that does not meet the requirements for non-combustible construction or encapsulated mass timber construction.
Yeah, so the mass timber stuff.
That's almost an oxymoron there. Encapsulated mass timber construction. So you're supposed to build something out of timber and then cover it up with fire retardant
I guess so. I mean,
to make it non-combustible.
that is a good question.
Because the question is about non-combustibility of a material, building material.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm fine. But I mean, you talk about the matrix. You can go like right down this. Like, there's a lot of information here.
Yeah.
But okay, so regarding let's talk about most of the people that listen to the show, which is part 9. Like, you can dive right into part 9 because you guys have that. So a lot of the things that are pretty standard. So I don't know. I guess staircase runs, handrail heights. What is it like? I guess glass allowances. There's a bunch of things that we can talk about.
No results.
For staircase? Or no, you know what? They're not called staircase. They're called stairs.
Oops.
Staircase would probably be used in Quebec.
Stairs.
So Ontario,
There's something outside of. There's a SB4 here. Measures for fire safety in high buildings. There's 9.8 here.
Look at that. Stairs and steps and ramps, landings, handrail. Look at that. Section 9.8.
So we can go there. And then you can see the subsections here, stair dimensions, configuration.
This is very cool, guys. Eh?
Step
Like this is very cool.
Oh, great.
No, it's very, very cool.
Landings, handrails, yeah, guards.
Guards, look at that. Everything. Cantilevered, precast concrete. Look at that, huh?
Yeah.
Like, you would never find this in the actual physical book. You would have had a pack of smokes, and then you would have had 15 beers before you even got to the first one that we searched, right?
Yeah, you might
You would have been going crazy.
give up.
It's
not a very long section.
Anchorage. Well, I don't understand Anchorage.
Cantilevered concrete steps referred to in article that shall be anchored
What's all that
to
about?
concrete foundation of at least 200 millimeters thick.
Foundation shall be. Those got to be precast concrete to porch setups. That's what it's got to be.
Yeah, I mean, this is another thing we'd like to do is, work with the community to help us understand these things too, and to create diagrams for this thing or an animation or something that helps explain these things, because they're not meant to be. They're meant to be the rule, like the legal thing.
Yes.
But they're not designed for learning.
And then details are in here as well too. So it depends on the hyperlink that you guys are clicking on. So you'll get all these details. So we know that when we apply for a permit and it gets approved, there's that back page or 3 or whatever, 15, that gives you the standard details for anything in building that's applicable to the Part 9 to the scope. You guys have all those details up here as well too.
Well, so there is a bit of work that we're doing also on. So there is a pretty good mapping between Section 9 of the OBC and the National Building Codes. So the National Building Codes have very similar information, but there is also illustrated user guide associated with the National Building Code that we have the license for, that we're working on adding to the system. So we want to do a cross-reference for the illustrated guide. We've recently learned that there is an illustrated guide for Ontario building codes as well. We haven't seen it, so we're still, on the hunt for it.
They haven't given it to you, or
Well, we don't know.
It wasn't part of our license agreement.
It wasn't part of the license.
So we haven't. We didn't know about it.
it was redacted or something? I don't know.
No. It wasn't
What's under this
intentional.
black?
Here you go.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. I don't want to make it a conspiracy theory of any sort. No,
Okay.
no. It's just we haven't got.
You just haven't received it.
Yeah, we
Okay,
haven't
all right.
got
But it is in the mail. All right.
No, we haven't asked for it yet.
Oh, okay, all right.
Because we just learned that.
But there's so much attached to everything. That's so, and a lot of it is unique to certain building situations, right? And that's what a lot of younger trades will always bring up. They'll say, why do they make it so confusing, right? But the thing is that the government and the codes in any city has to apply to every possible building structure that's being built.
Yeah.
And you got to kind of give them every variation of possibilities, right? And then you work from there at that point.
Unfortunately, it seems very complicated and confusing, but it does cover absolutely everything, right?
Yes.
Like a heritage water tower, or whatever to your residential home. But when you have to cover everything, it's going to be crazy no matter what. And that's why, there is the opportunity to also move towards specialization.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I don't need, if I'm doing residential homes, I don't need to know anything about commercial kitchens or, things like that, all the rules involved.
Yeah, so I can go in there and I go, listen, I just really want to focus on part 9 and just always bookmark and keep that. And then if you're constantly building a very similar home over and over, or similar rentals over and over, you can bookmark those pages and have that. And then all of a sudden it gets you faster into those.
Exactly, yeah. So you can bookmark all the key things and make comments even for yourself. And the building officials do this too. They collect their common comments in a separate project so that they have all their things.
Oh, yeah, we know, because we get the emails and they screen it and they give it to us and they go, I made a note on the last visit here. I know, we know. We know that they're paying attention. It's just part of the process, so it's not a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I do like, so this is an ever growing entity for you guys.
Yeah, we just added the National Building Codes 2010, and we're working on, the November one. But there was no amendment changes in the November one. This is the one that Simon mentioned, because it was in a previous one, they mentioned that certain things will come into effect November 1st, and so the new version that came out doesn't have any changes except for these things are now effective. So
that's all it says.
Yeah.
Regarding the lead, is there lead? You guys have lead up here or no?
Not yet. No.
You're still working on that.
The first one outside the codes we did was the OBOA quick inspector guide.
Yeah.
Another one we have permission to add to the system is for infrastructure. So it's the Envision Sustainability for Infrastructure standard. So it's like LEED, but for infrastructure.
Okay.
We haven't actually talked to the LEED people yet, but the other one that we'd love to add is the Toronto Green Standard, because that's open source as well.
Yes. Because I tell you, there'll be a lot of builders that'd be interested in diving into that to find the information that they would need.
Right.
Because that would help you start your project to begin with. And that's where it really should begin. It shouldn't begin at this point where we're already on site looking for our answers. We should already have the answers.
But also, just even on the building code side, getting all the applicable law all over Canada.
Yeah.
So right now we really have only statutes from Ontario and Ontario Building Code, of course. But even in the provinces that use National Building Code, they still have a bunch of statutes associated that we would want to have all in one place. So that's definitely on a to-do list.
So I could see a lot of architects, engineers, they're diving into this because as they're drawing and building certain things, they're going to want to know what the code is asking for at that point.
Yeah, and I think they'd also like to be able to search in the same way that the building officials are now going to use Trax to search for things, so that they, surface the same things.
Is that the plan? Like, I'm assuming that's so. You guys built it, and they're coming and play ball on it.
Oh yeah, it saves them time.
Yeah, because they don't have to go through
exactly.
the way we used to go through.
Oh yeah.
I think it's pretty much universal that nobody wants to carry around the
No.
books, especially to site and back
No.
and forth. And
Oh,
yeah, so having it on your phone is preferable. Yeah.
makes a lot of sense, man. Where were we going to go? Sorry, let's talk about OBC talk here. Funny enough, OBC changes 2003 versus current sections 5.4 air leakage. Do we want to pull that up? I'm curious.
We don't have the older OBC ones.
Oh, so this would be okay. So you have as far back as 2012, and then amendments from there.
Well, we have the 2012 version,
Okay,
which is still the 2012 version today. Like, there's no new
hasn't changed.
It's I guess technically that's a revision.
Yeah.
Yeah, there hasn't been. Is
Yeah.
there plans on? Well, I don't know. I wouldn't know, but
Yeah, it's strange that they would just say 20.
everyone's been working off the 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's all these amendments that have
Yeah,
I know, but
happened.
it's
Yeah.
10 years, right? And I guess 2012 came in after 97, and that would have been the next one. So I guess we're almost due for a new one.
There is a large discussion about harmonization with the national building codes.
That's a smart idea.
Yeah, and so that would help everybody. Where we actually are at in that point, and I mean, I think we've heard some dates, but it's unclear, how well that'll progress. But theoretically, that would be a major change. I'm not, like Simon mentioned, there's a lot of similarities and overlaps, but the Ontario Building Code has taken large chunks of the national codes and moved them around, so they're not in the same places and things like that. So it'd be nice if there was a harmonization, that would be the next major revision. That would be ideal.
But before even that, we do want to do our own sort of matching exercise where we, when you're looking at OBC, you have links to the national building codes, to the similar sections, so that,
Yeah, like this example, the Anchorage one. Maybe there's a lot more detail in the national building codes about Anchorage. And so if we could determine that automatically, we could put a little star there saying, hey, check the national building codes.
Isn't the national building code a little further or faster or better? I don't know.
It changes much slower in some sense. So they only have 2010, 2015, and 2020 versions.
So every 5 years.
So every 5 years, but there's each change is significant change. Size-wise, there is in some parts there's a lot more information. On the other hand, with OBC they have plumbing all
Yes.
part of it. In the national ones they split energy, plumbing, electrical, and building all split up into separate books.
Are we the only country, or how does the U.S. do it? Because I know that you guys are diving into the U.S. as well, right? Do they have a national and a state?
Yeah, so there's an international building codes which are adapted by the state. So similarly as here, it's like you have your model codes, and then the states adapt them. So it works similarly to here, where the national building codes are model codes. They're not, and then provinces adopt them.
Yep. I like it. Let me finish this up. Require resistance to air leakage. The 2003 version states that areas separating environmentally dissimilar spaces must have air barrier systems. In addition to that, the current version states that those systems must provide acceptable conditions for occupants, minimize the accumulation and penetration of condensation and precipitation, minimize ice damming, and not compromise the building's surfaces. Air barrier systems properties 2003 version refers to only the sheet and panel type materials intended to provide the principal resistance to air leakage. The current version refers to all materials intended to provide the principal resistance to air leakage. This would be section 5.4, 5.1.4, and 5.1.4, which is all resistance and environmental separation. I have no idea what that meant.
Well, it looks like that
Air leakage, 5.4. Oh, look at that, man.
But 5.4.
I'm getting chills, Azam.
Well, so the interesting thing is actually volume 2 also has
Look at that, huh?
has some information on that. So if you
I think Angelina's going to start using your, so we can start using it for the show.
Right. To quiz people. Well,
No,
I mean,
that's like, I definitely think that you'd have to get a tablet. I think you'd get tired of the phone real quick because it won't be large enough.
right.
It'd have to be a tablet, right?
That'd be helpful, yeah, especially for typing and searching and stuff.
Yeah, I can't wait to have enough money to buy an iPad or something so we can try it on the iPad. We haven't had a chance.
So how did two guys like you get into doing this? Like, how much construction experience do you guys have behind? Like, this is not Chinese to you guys. It's not a different language, or is it a different language?
Oh, it's totally Chinese.
Yeah, it's totally, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're not experts at all. So we both have a background in computer science, right? And
But we need that in construction.
yeah. No, absolutely. I think, since we first released in August 1st, we found that just the whole community, both contractors, as I mentioned, our first customer, contractor, but a lot of the building officials that are signing up, we get building departments. We just signed up Oakville, here in Oakville, for example. There's just so much value we can add by digitizing all of this stuff and getting it off of paper. So there seems to be an infinite number of things we could do, and there's only more and more value we could put into this thing. So hopefully people will find that useful. But even in the show here, that is a thing that, like in the specific case you were mentioning 5.4.1.4, but that's not in this. Like, that has been removed, I guess, in some.
Yeah, 5.1.4, which is environmental separation requirements.
Yeah, so you can see 5.1.2 is the last section here.
So it's already been removed. Look at that. Yeah. Well, right, is that one there the fourth one there? 5.1.4.1?
Yeah, there's only 0.1 and 0.2 here.
That's 5.4. You're looking for 5.1.
5.1.4.
Oh, 5.1?
Yeah, 5.1.4. So that's what I was looking at over there on that. Yeah.
Just scroll up there.
But what did you you just typed in air leakage.
Yeah.
And this is what came up for air leakage. Here you go, 5.1.4. There it is, resistance right there. Deterioration 0.2.
Which one?
5.1.4. Environmental separation requirements.
Yeah, structural environmental.
Right there. No, right there. Glasses on, glasses off.
I mean, it is possible that the numbering changed.
Well, let me search for that.
So the thing that he's talking about is it's a name change. 5.1.4 was previously called something else in the 2003.
Yeah, so it was current version expands from section 5.1.4 resistance to loads to deterioration was previously 5.1.4 environmental. So it's just a name change to the actual document. But you guys have the document there, and then you've got the hyperlink, so it's like past performance. So it's there.
Right, so if we had the versions back to 97, we could show that name change when it happened. And we have had requests for that too. For example, in a change of use where a building, used to be a high school or something, now they want to convert that building into some other use, community center or something. Some building officials have asked us, can we see type in a date and see where the building code's at that time for this kind of use case.
Wow.
So, the other one is unfortunate. When people are being sued, they have to know what the codes were at that time.
Well, no, it's fine because this information can be used for that as well too. So do you guys have a predicted timeline when you'll have the entire country done? Or hasn't even been discussed yet?
We have requested some additional codes from the NRC, and we've been approved for Alberta.
Okay.
For whatever reason, unknown to us, Alberta and Quebec are combined, so we're still waiting for Quebec. But we might have Alberta and Quebec soon. And like I said, Alberta's already approved. BC is a little more challenging because they only publish the PDF, even though it's open source. We could start today. But we believe, based on some of the links, that there's an XML version which would help us it's more like the national building codes. So if there's a version like that, then we could get the units and all of that automatic links and everything. So we haven't had time to dive into that one yet, but absolutely by the end of like in the next year, we should be able to add everything.
Oh wow! And then because I haven't played with this yet, but on the actual program, can you send the city a questionnaire or a question or comment or something?
You could. So there's different ways. Like in each section here, I'll just show on this particular one. You can do a highlight. You can select some text and highlight something.
Okay.
Or you can make a bookmark or a comment. But there's the 3 little dots here too. So you can copy a link to the section to the clipboard, and you can copy the actual contents and paste that in a Word document or an email. And so now this whole section is on the clipboard. Share. So like if you are on your phone, you could use share to do a text message instead of email, stuff like that. And we have this reported data problem if you see some issue.
Do you have a report the city's not doing their job problem?
We could add that.
Report the inspector treated me badly problem, like stuff like that. No, we'll stay professional for now. This is really gonna educate us.
Hope so. I mean, that's the overall goal I think we have with our mission is to really try to turn this into an educational thing. Like I mentioned earlier on, like unrolling the logic of like if this but not that, and on Tuesdays except for Mondays, whatever. If we can unroll those things and make it more clear which codes apply, and what the numbers are and what the rules are, and maybe make interactive diagrams, things like that. We really want to change this into like an educational resource for sure.
What's the cross section of people that are currently using it right now? Are you getting all levels, like tradespeople, GCs, architects, engineers? Designers are getting involved in this as well?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay.
A bit of each, but our initial push actually is with the OBOA, the Ontario Building Officials Association. So our biggest group of users so far is the building departments at the municipalities. So they have 26 people or whatever that sign up as a group, and that also helps them if they sign up as a group to use the collaboration stuff. So at some cities, like Oakville here, they have a separate person that does mechanical, electrical, structural architecture, and so they could all collaborate on one application and add their comments and things like that. So our current focus, just in sort of the beginning, is to work with the building officials so that it's seen as Trax is seen as the trusted source of building codes, and then go out more to architects and contractors and tradespeople to that's how we met you as well, right? By starting to reach out to the group. So definitely we want to get as much feedback as we can, because it's a relatively new thing as well, of what people want, what's interesting for them. So for sure.
I was going to ask you something. Can you type in pools?
Yeah.
Does it matter if you're typing in singular or plural? It won't matter, right?
Let's try it. Oh, it's a little different. Yeah.
Because so pools will go into public, and then pool and pool deck design construction requirements. Look at that, eh? It's just general. Designation pool. Okay, modify pools. That's what I was going to ask you guys. Heat loss calculations for mechanical. Would that be? That's inside part 9, I think. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not confident about that. I'm not sure.
Heat loss
crawl space. Look at that. Heat loss crawl spaces. Minimum depth found. Okay. Warm and supply outlets. Look at that. You still get, you got a heat transfer. Windows, heat transfer. Wow. Air leakage.
Yeah, there's the air leakage again. Heat transfer, heat recovery.
So heat recovery, okay. So smart smoke and heat detector. So everything. You just typed in heat loss and you're getting a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's about 20 results, and each one you could just, like if you didn't know exactly what you were looking for, you could just click on each one and it'll scroll to that section. You can see if that's the one you meant to look for, go to the next one, and so on.
Can you show any details, or the details are not there yet?
In what sense?
The details I will always get in the back of a permit. I'm always getting those stupid details that tell us how to deck footing. There's a detail for a deck footing, right? So you have to build it a certain way that they recommend the way it's supposed to be.
Let's see.
No, that's just the term.
So, I guess if you went decks would have the footings and the detail. I should,
Maybe I should go out to the.
That's one.
That's volume 1? Or?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, this is what I mean. This is what I mean, man. Like, this is...
So this is a race,
like,
of book. Come on,
This
Azam.
is ridiculous. I'm not going to race. I'm not going to race. He's Usain Bolt, man. And I'm Ben Johnson cheating. No, like, I mean, so basic footings, widths, footing thickness.
So we want just volume 1 or volume 2?
It doesn't matter.
Maybe volume 2 has the there you go, footing sizes.
But I guess what would it indicate if there's a detail attached to an article or a link? Would it?
So if there is something, a section in volume 2 that references that section, it will indicate that.
It'll definitely indicate it, right?
Yeah, but sometimes the sort of the comments in volume 2 are not that extensive, but.
Well, I mean, it's a short result here, but it just says that application of footing and foundation requirements to decks and similar structures. This is Appendix 915.11. If it's greater than 10 meters squared, is considered as buildings or part of buildings,
Yes.
according to Section 9.1.
But they don't show you a detail, right?
No. That's all there is on that one.
Yeah, I do wonder if it's the illustrated guide that has some of those.
Is it volume 2 that shows the details, or volume 1?
I don't know the answer.
I don't know that one either. Don't worry. Wow, this was going to be school today. This one, huh?
Well, we can just click through them too and take a look here, but it looks like there's no details there.
I mean,
Thickness of rating, barrier free. Attachment to decking. What's that all about? Roof covering.
Roofing shall be securely attached. Barrier-free path of travel for outdoor pool deck. Thickness or rating.
I guess those details are coming from the engineers. No, it's not the engineers. It's from. Why am I? Maybe I'm not. I'm not correct on the term here. That's why it's probably not coming up.
well, it's totally possible that they're not in the codes, the details, or at least not in volume 1.
Yeah, maybe they're the by details you mean the figures, the diagrams.
Yes,
Yeah. Those are more likely in the guide.
in the guide, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the other one. So the other one, what is it? The OH, the OB, the OH,
The health and safety.
not the health and safety. The other one that you said that you had. Can you go back to the?
The inspector one.
Yeah.
That does have some illustrations that they have added just in that.
Yeah. So for the inspector quick start guide.
Oh, and this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this has the
Yeah.
deck.
So here we go. Okay.
Here's the future deck and
Yes.
foundation wall and so on.
Yes.
And there's quite a few diagrams in this one.
Yeah. So foundation slope and then footing. Yeah. So rebar. Yeah. Okay. So wow. Yeah, you definitely need a tablet on site. Like, I mean, it'd be very difficult to do this with a phone.
And here's the links to all the sections too, so you can both in the National Code and the Ontario Building Code.
Oh wow! So you're going right to it. So part 9, and that's what those numbers are all like.
Oh, here's
so
the
that's part
anchorage.
9, section 23 or whatever it is. I know that there's a title for each one of them. Maximum sense for. Oh, look at that! Eh? Oh, it's all in metric, huh?
Not for long.
Oh, hang on. Scroll back
No,
down.
no, there's some.
Imperial, yeah.
I know. Scroll up a little bit. Look at the nailing pattern. The nailing pattern right there.
Yeah.
Built up beams. This is valuable information for the new guy. You know what I mean? Like, or the old guy that never read the book like me.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Oh, so you see, you do have metric and imperial.
yeah, in the description there.
But technically, this is not actual text. This is a picture of text.
That's why.
Yeah. Yeah. So the inspector guide definitely has.
What's going on with the toilet? Toilet elevation? They have an elevation drawing of a toilet.
This is.
Oh, grab bar. That's why.
Yeah.
Okay,
It
so
has to
this
be
is all part of the wellness. Okay.
the height and this is a thing that we've been told also is common to get wrong, and it's
Yes.
more costly. If you're doing ceramic tile.
Yes. But look at that. It's right there. So then when you are doing a wellness or an accessibility bathroom, you're already being told exactly where to start putting plywood or back blocking for all your grab bars.
Right.
Look at that, and it's actually A, B, C, and everything. Man, this is solid. Beams and columns. Okay, so I know you guys mentioned 3 lattes or 2 lattes, whatever it is, but how much is it? Like it's a monthly?
Well, there's we have 2 versions. One we call standard, which is we think of as the occasional user, like if you're not working with the building codes every day, and that's $14 a month.
Okay.
And the other one is $29 a month. Yeah, 29, which is we call professional, which includes everything. So that's all the comments and bookmarks and highlighting and collaboration, where you can invite other people to the project for each project you're doing.
Is there a limit on the people or?
No.
I guess per project or per
Per
user?
person. Yeah, the licenses.
It's per person.
Per person. That's
Although
what I
you
thought.
can transfer the license to another person. So at the given time, only one person can use it.
Yes. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So if you have a team and you think only 3 people at a time will be using them, you could get 3 licenses and then assign them to people, or if somebody leaves, you take it back and assign it to somebody else. And it's just based on the email. Wow. So
There is a free version as well. So if you have access to all the information for free.
Is that the free version?
No, that's not free. That actually costs more expensive.
No shit. This is even more money than that. That's what I mean. It's ridiculous how I can't remember what I paid for that. It's $500 or something.
It's
I'm trying to remember.
maybe less than 500, but
300.
more-
I think it was like something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
300 something, but then you also, I believe you have to pay for the updates.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
All of them. Every single one of them.
And then you have to do the work of
To insert it, to put it in the right place. And nobody's going to do that when you could just go online and deal with this.
Yeah. I mean, in the ideal world, you would be able to just stay on your computer.
Yeah, so the free version gives you access to the information, but not necessarily all the features. So, for example, like the search, you have to pay for the search, and then, but if you get a link from somebody, you can still go to it and see it.
I know, but even $29.99, is that what you said?
$29 for the pro version. Yeah.
Pro version, yeah. So even $30 a month, $360 for the year, and you've got every question that needs to be answered right there, right?
Yeah, and also ideally, up to date, so that people don't have to worry. Like in the search, for example, like when we do the search,
Glasses back on. All right.
we want to be able to show that fireplace here again. That you're just searching the most current version of everything. So because if you're doing a job, you have to adhere to the most current version of any standard, any code. So you don't need to see search results from older codes when you're actually doing a job. And so that filter just helps you make sure you're up to date.
So it's very easy to use, right? So other than you have the library, so you can actually set up a project.
Yeah. So for example, a project, we have our example one here at the Lakeside Campus Net Zero Student Housing Project.
Okay.
And when you have a specific project, you have a location you can set as well. There's a little GIS controller here, a little map. And so you could set a location and type an address here. I don't know what's a good address. I forgot what we had
What's
here.
the address here?
Here, 407 Iroquois. There it is. Shore Road. But yeah, you're going into the States. That's why. It's all U.S. coming up right now. Right? We don't know.
Did I have it?
You can add any one of them. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. It's IROO.
There we go.
There it is. Right there, the top one.
Yeah. So,
The future.
if we're doing a job here, for example, we would set this as the location. There we are. Save and close. And then we have that. We can also draw a polygon. If there's no building there, you can draw a polygon outlining the parcel, for example. And then you can add, general notes here in the description, like for overall project things. And then you have your bookmarks and comments here collected as part of that project. So if you, whenever, like.
Also, when you were going into the code looking for things.
Yeah. So we bookmarked steel beams here, for example.
Yes.
9.23.4.3. That will show up in your list of codes and comments that you made here. Plus the inspector quick start guide. I guess
Wow.
we did something with that too. Foundations here.
And you can add some collaborators there, so you can there's levels of permissions and so on, whether or not they can modify the project. You can export the project as a PDF report, and
Yeah. So the you can export it with all the bookmarks and comments, and as a PDF and send that to somebody, if you want to share that. You can invite other people, so we can invite Manny here as a collaborator, and then you can add comments too, or see our comments and respond to them. So if there's some interpretation like, does it have to be nails or can it be screws? You can have those
Wow.
notes in there, and then they could all be shared with that group.
What's roadmaps? I'm just looking at the menu on the top there. So roadmaps and standards, assets.
Yeah, that's future stuff. So
Oh, okay. You can't talk about it yet. Secret stuff. Okay. All right. Do I need a cloak? We got to put a cloak on or something?
that's part of the premium, I guess, the license that is not sold.
Okay. Nobody saw roadmaps. Nobody saw roadmaps.
We can show it. We can show it. It was one of our first projects. Actually, was with Niagara Health.
Okay.
They have 5 hospitals, but they're building a new 6th hospital, and the people there, the folks there, invested some time in mapping out the entire capital planning process that's required by Infrastructure Ontario and the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care.
Okay.
And I'll show it just for fun because it's impressive. This is the process for creating a new hospital, which involves the complete, 8 to 10 year process.
Yeah.
So there is construction in there as well, which is stage 5, according to the ministry and Infrastructure Ontario. But, there's all these other stages that happen before that. So you can see it, maybe you can see there's a graph here on the screen with
I see DNA is what I see. What's going on here?
There's 850 deliverables. Each little box is a deliverable, which could be a contract for somebody, like it could be an RFP. I'll just zoom into one of my favorites here. I should mention this is stage 5 here. This is construction.
That's construction.
So that is the biggest stage with the most deliverables. But I'm just going to go back here and click on one of these things. Sections to zoom in. And it'll zoom in on that section. And you can see, or maybe you can see there's
So now I understand roadmaps. Okay, so this is what you came up with. I get it now.
Yeah, and I mean, this is another type of standard. So if we click on one of these deliverables, this is block diagram, site planning portion, and there's a bunch of things that you can attach to this, scheduling, checklist, and so on. So this would be ideal, it's not really during construction. There's other scheduling software for that and things like that. But in the planning phase of planning out an entire project, there's so many interdependencies.
Yeah.
And each deliverable might have a different approval time. So, for example, if MTO has to approve something, because when you're doing a hospital, there's going to be new entrances and roads and so on. They might take 6 months to approve something.
Okay.
So you want to separate out that deliverable so that you're not just blocked. Because on a huge project like this, you're talking about $10 million a month of delay, right? So you really want to spend the time to organize these large projects so that you can efficiently get them done.
I like the little spotlight there. That's kind of cool.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But-
I'm constantly thinking of how I can bring that feature into the other parts of the software because I like it as well.
But even as like just a small GC business renovation, whatever, you can create a mini version of a roadmap to get through the whole project.
Yeah, so that was our thinking too, to bring the roadmap thing down to a scale where it's useful for any size project. To say, what do I have to do first? What needs to, I have to apply for this permit. I have to do this and that, and then you can also assign people to that. Like, so and so can do this part or that part, and figure out what the whole process is. So it's really a process map, the roadmap.
Yeah.
If we brought it into the to the codes world, we would probably call it a compliance map. Like, what are all the things you need to do to get the checklists done and this and that to have a successful project.
It's very impressive, gentlemen. Like, this is very, very cool. Like, the industry needed this.
Thank you.
So you got to hurry up. I know it's taking time, but I mean, you've got most of OBC, right? Is in there? Most of it?
All of it.
All of it's in
yeah.
there.
Yeah, all of
Okay.
OBC.
So Ontario's good to go.
Yeah, Ontario is good to go. There's still some applicable law that we can add. So OBC, of course, references a bunch of acts that we have a few. We have the Fire Protection and Prevention Act
Yes.
and the Building Code Act, but we need other acts as well. So there's still a bit of work in terms of Ontario, but the OBC itself is all there, yeah.
One last segment, gentlemen. Green Book Talk, duties of employers. Employers must ensure that all equipment, materials, and protective devices are provided, are in good condition, and used correctly. The building is capable of supporting all applied loads. Information, instruction, and supervision is provided to protect workers. Information, including confidential business information, is provided. Qualified medical, a copy of the OHSA, which is this thing, and applicable languages on site. That's actually a good point. Is posted in space. Workplace, a written OHSP is posted in a place as well too. Reviewed annually. Gentlemen, so Trax with an X.co, and then reach out. Like, I guess we can sign up right from the website, right? Anybody, and it's good to go, ready to go. Any contractor, anybody that's working in Ontario.
Anybody in Canada or even in the world can sign up.
Start signing up, yeah.
It's just your email, basically, you need to use to sign up. And everybody gets a free trial, 30-day free trial of the full professional thing. If you don't ever want to purchase it after 30 days, it'll just go down to the free version.
No credit card needed.
No credit.
I love it, man. I'm telling you guys, we needed this. So, and anybody who's listening, it's just like, go and watch it. You got to watch this because we walked through this. I can't even imagine just listening to what we were talking about and try to explain it. So you definitely, no, you got to watch it. But also on the website, do you guys have a little video tutorial or anything like that? Yeah, you do, right? So that kind of explains it there.
Minute and a half.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, if I could figure it out, then I think most contractors, GCs, or whatever tradespeople could figure it out. Thank you, man. Thank you very much. That was very, very cool.
Thank you.
We're not done yet. We got the 12 questions of construction there.
I know.
That's it. Last section. What? More nervousness? No, there's no right or wrong. And I tell people there's no cash prizes whatsoever, unless you guys want to give away some of the tracks. Ready?
That's a good idea.
It's up to you guys. You guys can let me know. We could do a little promo thing or whatever. Because I know a bunch of GCs that'll be interested in it. But
Awesome.
we could figure that out. We could talk that out later on. Gentlemen, what is your favorite construction word?
Restoration, I put.
Good question.
I have two in case.
Let me go to your backup word.
I put net zero as the backup.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, or sustainability. Yeah.
So I like that you guys are conscious of that, right? Because I'm seeing more and more people in this industry becoming more and more conscious of it.
Great.
It'd be great if politicians could be unconscious.
Yeah, it's we in Hamilton. I went to the Mohawk,
Oh, you went to it?
the Net Zero building there,
Okay.
and it's awesome. Like, and I also went to the other. There's 2 certified Net Zero buildings that I know of in Canada, and the other one's at Humber College. And so these are both colleges that do building codes, right, and train people for building codes. And so in the Humber College one, it's interesting because it's a retrofit. And so it's a passive house retrofit of
Yeah.
an existing building. And you go into either of these buildings, and the experience is exactly like any other building. Like, you can't tell. It's not like, oh, net zero, I'm suffering in some way. So
No, you're not.
it's just a question of adding that to the program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your least favorite construction word, gentlemen?
I put delay, but it's tongue in cheek, I guess.
Yeah. I was gonna choose the same word.
You could choose the same one. Delay.
Maybe I'll add just like collecting all the materials, like the shopping, basically. Like is just it's a huge job.
It's massive.
And so I've done a fair bit of work, let's say, in drywall and like some things like that and renos. But my sister and her husband, they do tons of this stuff, and I'm often recruited to help out. But I know that when they're doing something, they spend weeks, just shopping for all of the stuff.
Yeah. What turns you on in construction, gentlemen?
I see every construction site as this opportunity to do a net zero building. So like when I see them digging that big hole in the ground, I'm just crossing my fingers and hoping that they're also doing geothermal.
Yeah.
Or whatever could go in at that time. That would be ideal.
For sure.
Much more simple. I just like hardwood floors, but
What turns you off in construction?
concrete.
Concrete?
I grew up in Soviet Union, and whenever I see buildings that have all this concrete, it just gives me the gibberish.
There's a lot of concrete in.
know.
There's a lot. There's a lot of beautiful structures in concrete there as well.
It's possible.
Yeah,
It's
but there is a
possible.
lot of concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I mean, there's so many opportunities in construction that can really elevate you when you experience a building, and I mean, even in the now some designs have these hybrid sort of unfinished, structural pieces together with other pieces. So that's also interesting, and I guess because of my core interest in education and learning, like if those things could overlap and there's some transparency in how things were made, that would be cool.
Very, very cool. What is your favorite curse word? We haven't been cursing here because we've been teaching. You don't have to curse, but if you want to curse in Russian, you can do that.
Russian curse words are pretty bad.
Are they?
Yeah, they're usually pretty bad.
I might get more people listening to the show now.
Well, no, I'm a simple guy.
If you guys don't curse, I'm not holding anybody to curse.
F word is my
Okay,
usual
go-to.
Yeah.
I developed this thing by having worked in large companies where you really can't do any swearing. So I can't remember where I saw this, but maybe a film, maybe one of these movie tickets will remind me. It was an unfinished swear word. So I would simplify my expression to "son of a," and I would just not finish it. And everybody knows what comes next.
Yes.
And then I'd get some people reacting like, "Oh, Azam." Like, what? I didn't say anything.
I didn't say anything. I like that one. What is your favorite vehicle, gentlemen? Anything in the world?
Can I do two?
Sure.
So my first car, I loved my first car.
Oh, I was going to say my first car.
Well, it's fine. I mean,
No, go ahead.
GMC Sierra 1990. That was, it's like, I don't know what happened with trucks. They used to look so nice, but now they're just like
We don't know
beasts.
what they are now.
They're just beasts. But the second one is I really like trains, and so and Japanese trains. So I haven't been on German or Swiss trains, but the Japanese trains, they run by the second. So it's not just the train itself, but like their system where, it's by the second.
Yes.
It's just the precision of it. I just find very impressive.
I'll also add in my first car, which is funny because I guess I was a lot younger than I am now. And a friend of mine was like leaving to move to the U.S. and he was like, "Hey, do you want to buy my old car?" And I was like, "That's a good idea, actually." So I'd never driven standard before, but
I miss stick.
so yeah, so I actually he took me to the airport in his car, and I bought it for $1,000 or something, and then I had to drive it home and like kind of learn.
This is the first time driving around a stick?
Well, maybe one time before, but like, and I did everything correctly, but I was so concentrating that I missed my turn off like 3 times. And but that became my favorite car because it was a total junker. And I didn't even know what kind of car it was. Like there was no label on it or whatever. There was just on the steering wheel there was the word turbo. So we all called it the turbo. Later I looked at the paperwork, it was a Mitsubishi something or other.
Is that what it was?
But like eventually like the window fell into the door and it was a total.
We all had those.
But that was comforting because I could drive anywhere, and if I came back to the parking lot and it was gone or on fire, it would be okay.
Least favorite vehicle in the world?
I mean, I put Hummer just because I think they're a bit obnoxious to
Yes,
drive
very much.
outside of the military. Nothing wrong with the military when they're used for military purpose.
For the purpose of it, yes.
But when you're in the city or something, that's just it seems unnecessary.
Least favorite vehicle. Sorry. I think all vehicles are interesting. I mean, the most weird one was there was a combined pickup truck thing in the 70s that was just odd.
Pickup truck thing in the 70s?
Yeah, it was not really a pickup truck.
You're talking about a Camino.
Maybe, is that it?
The station wagon or whatever, like it's a pickup back, but it's a car front.
Something like that.
El Camino.
Yeah, okay.
It's a Camino,
There
yeah.
you go. That was just weird. I mean, I never.
I love them. I think they're kind of cool because you could put a sheet of ply in the back and then you can still go out in the front.
My brother-in-law I mentioned he just bought the dually, the Bighorn, and because you could put a full sheet of 8 by 4 by 8.
That's a
back.
big truck.
Yeah.
That's a Yellowstone truck. What construction sound or noise do you guys love?
I put handsaw.
Yeah.
It's you don't hear it very often though. Who does handsawing? But it's sort of like once it gets past the handsaw, the saw itself, what's there to love? But
Well, don't people use it as a musical instrument like this?
Sometimes.
Well,
Get a screwdriver and hit it, and now you got a tune. Yes.
Favorite one? I actually like the pile driver, like when they're doing foundations and stuff.
Really?
It just sounds really powerful.
That's come up as least favorite.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I can imagine if I had to listen to it.
If
for
you were
more than-
downtown right next to the parking garage.
then it would be my least favorite.
Yes.
For sure. But when you're just driving by and it just seems like a powerful.
You think that the operator of that, like when he goes home, he still hears it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
He's
sure.
on the gardener or something. And he's just dum,
Yeah,
dum, dum.
Probably his heart is synchronized to it.
It might be. What construction sound noise do you guys hate?
jackhammer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
For me, it's the sound of somebody with a screwdriver where they're stripping the head. I'm like, I just hate that. Like, don't do that.
There's a difference. I know. I know. It's usually
I've done that.
What
Stop doing that.
what profession other than your own, gentlemen, would you guys like to attempt one day?
Graphic novel artist. When I'm done with this, I'm just gonna start.
Have you drawn any yet?
Yeah, I used to make some comics. when I was
Nice.
Younger.
Published?
Yeah, actually, just recently got an email that from a library that they wanted to index one of my books.
That's awesome.
So I'm trying to remember where it was.
In Canada?
Yeah, here in Ontario.
Nice.
Do you want to share the name of the comic?
Sure, it's called Payphone, and it's a story that my mom told me, and I made it into a comic. And a story about her meeting a random stranger that recognized her and because my grandfather, her father, he was a teacher or a professor in the university or a lecturer in the university, and he recognized my mom because he met her at some point.
Yes.
And just wanted to tell her how much he appreciated her father.
Nice.
And it was just a touching story. So I thought, well, I never met my grandfather. He died before I was born. So for me, it was sort of an experience, connecting with him in some small way. So.
That's very nice.
Yeah, I mean, I could do many things. The problem is I'm interested in everything. And so in the past, I did some animation and filmmaking. That was a lot of fun and rewarding as a physical thing to do. If I went back to school again, I feel like I should do chemistry as a thing or engineering.
Pretty much anything.
Yeah, I could. I would not just. I would try to do it all.
What profession do you guys not want to do at all?
Surgeon. I would.
Surgeon.
I can't. Well, first of all, I wouldn't be able to go through the school. The idea of like memorizing all the parts of the body and so on, just not good with memorizing.
You think the building codes are bad?
Yeah.
Not want to do. Done a lot of dirty jobs. I guess something involving cleaning up a mess. I probably wouldn't want to do.
Last question, gentlemen. If heaven exists, what would you guys like to hear God say when you arrive at those pearly gates?
I thought this was a trick question.
No, it's not a trick question.
There's only one thing you'd like to hear, and that's them saying, "Welcome. Come on in." Anything else is risky. It's like going to the customs guy. You want to get into the country. You say as little as possible. You just answer exactly
Smile,
with one word.
be nice.
Exactly.
And you'll enter.
I'm hoping right now he will tell me or she will tell me that Trax Codes is still running. Don't worry, everything is okay.
Simon's a worrywart.
Thank you, gentlemen. This has been great. It's great to meet you and chat and go through this whole process. And I could totally see this being a huge success and also a huge. We need it. We desperately need it. So I'm definitely going to encourage as many people as possible to give it a go and give it a try and use it. And they're probably going to use it too.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, we really want this to bring value to people. So phone us, contact us, email us, whatever. Let us know your ideas or thoughts, everybody. We welcome any kind of feedback so that we can help make this useful.
Simple. Go to the website, right? So trax.co.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts. That's it.
trax.co.
That's
and,
it.
Yeah, we're all there.
We are. Thank you, Angelina. I think that's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All
Great
right.
to meet you.
You too.